Instagram. Hi, it's good to be here. I don't think I've ever hosted a live over here. So um, I do them a lot on my own wall, on my name. But this is good, and hopefully I'll see some new faces. I'm going to invite Crystal to join me in a minute. There she is. That was fast. Let's see. Pops up in a second or two. I think she probably will. And we'll chat. We'll talk about how to have dogs. I love something she loves. Look how easy that was. That was
Let's see
kind
if
of
I have sound.
amazing, Crystal, that it just worked.
Can you hear me?
I can. Do you have earphones?
No.
And then she was gone. That was a short-lived live. And she's back.
How about now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Woo!
You know that Verizon commercial? I haven't seen it in years, but it was basically a person would be walking around saying, "Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?" Do you know that commercial?
Yes.
Yeah, because
I
like
use it all the time, actually.
All right. Well, it does occur to me that whoever thought that up, it was probably the bane of the company's existence because it soon became sort of a joke because we're always saying that. Can you hear me now? And the answer is often, why no, I cannot hear you. And they're stuck. I don't know. Maybe younger people don't even know that's Verizon. I don't even know if that's.
I didn't know it was Verizon, but I just knew it. So there. I don't watch TV though. I mean, so there's that.
Actually, neither do I. I think that's interesting. I wonder if this is a common factor. People who
I know
like high
time
drive
for
things.
it.
I just can't sit still.
Okay, that too.
So I start watching, and within a few minutes, I'm like, things just need to move faster, and my brain starts to drift, and I can't stay focused on a TV. It's like a half an hour of my life. There are exceptions, but for the most part, I'm not good to go. But
Now,
go ahead.
Is that high drive or is that ADHD? There's a difference.
I am both, and we have talked about that. You and I have talked about that. Actually, in my opinion, this is just Crystal is the kind of embodiment of so many high drive qualities because she is like 100%. I don't think she sleeps. She's always doing things and going, and her life is complicated. Like, so let me just tell you how this life came
Complicated. I
about.
think it's pretty easy.
How many hours did you drive today?
Just 3.5.
Just 3.5. Okay. So when we were trying to decide on a time, she was like, "Oh no, it'll be fine unless I have to stop for gas." Like, who lives their life so close to the edge that it'll be fine unless I need gas? And then as I read a little more carefully, I think what you were actually saying is if you didn't run out of gas, because then, okay, so now that's a whole nother level. That's a whole nother level.
Well, we went to the lake yesterday.
Huh?
And so we went to the lake with the dogs to take the dogs swimming. And so then when I got back, there's no gas stations in the country there. So we were on these gravel roads and we finally got back and I had a police officer behind me and I forgot that I didn't have my plates on the back of the van because I took my cargo carrier off so I could pull the trailer. But then found out that I was still legal in doing that. So woohoo. So then when I get back to the house, it's a little bit of an incline. And so when I parked, the gas went to the back. And so then it said I was completely empty. And so then when I left, I had a little bit more than I thought. So I made it, I was like 11 miles to get to the closest gas station. I was cool. It was all good.
Yes. So now I'm just curious because this is not my life. Like this side of your life, I don't understand. So here's my question for you. What would you have done if you run out of gas? What's the next step? Because I've never had that happen.
Oh, it's happened a couple times.
Yeah. What do you do? Do you walk to the gas station? Do you call and
It depends.
What do you do?
If the dogs are in the car, then I don't walk. Well, I did walk once with the dogs, but usually I call someone and say I screwed up, help. So this would have been called Dad.
That's right, because he's not that far away. Anyway,
yeah, but he
gets that there was all these like, it's not gonna be a problem to show up at 3:00 Pacific time unless I run out of gas. Yeah, that's living a life. I would call that a high stress lifestyle. But the fact that you do so many things and my definition or my kind of big picture definition of drive is stays in the game under adversity. I know it's a lot more complicated than that, but I think it's a simple way that most people can say, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that that describes my dog at a greater percentage than, let's say, 90% of the dogs out there. Or, yeah, I can see how my dog doesn't actually stay in the game under adversity, whereas my neighbor's dog does, right? I think it's just a simple, huge catch-all.
Right.
So I don't remember why I just told you that. But anyway,
But I always go for drive for me, and I talk about it a lot in my little webinar part, is that biological need. So that's the piece that I think is so important. And that's the piece that I think is the arousal versus drive that everybody gets confused on.
yeah.
It's just there's always that biological desire. And so I think I actually have a biological desire for a thrill.
Mm-hmm.
I think for sure that I'm a thrill seeker, and I can't help it. So even as an example of, yeah, I was running out of gas, but instead of that stressing me out, it was kind of like, can I make it to this one, or should I go a little further because the next one's a little cheaper on the gas?
Oh my God! Now you're stressing me out. I'm glad you're not stressed. I'm sitting here. Oh, geez. Oh, my heart. My heart. You should not tell me to be stressed. I am so glad I'm not your mother.
Okay, but I think too we talked about decoy work, and so even just how we perceive the decoy work, I thought it was fascinating that you were perceiving it as I'm teaching something, and you didn't really have that like. I'm in the fight. Like my adrenaline is going, and I'm totally in the fight.
I have no emotional reaction different than I have doing any other training.
And see, that's where I have to really catch myself, because when I'm working with my teammates, you know, I feel like I'm like in a chess game where it's 5 steps ahead and I'm trying to counter the dog in the right ways, but then also try to communicate to my handlers what they should be doing. And then that's where I think I can lose my temper because it's all about the dog in that moment, and I can see it. And why can't you see it? And just grab the leash, please. That's all I need.
Yeah.
But I think too, because I'm so adrenalized, you know, I'm feeling it, and it's I have all those, you know, just my drive is kicking, you know, I'm like needing this thrill, and yeah, it just gets really hard.
I think that chess player analogy in the 5-step sport is one of the reasons. See, that's one of the reasons I love working with high drive dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I like working with a dog where there's no resting, and with a dog who's complex enough that whatever we're working on at that moment, it absolutely consumes me, because I know that my choices matter very much. I can either make choices that's going to make this a really great training session. It's going to go very fast. My dog's going to learn the thing super fast, and we're going to both have a good time, a good attitude. We're going to go in the house. It's been good. And I love that I don't have a lot of time to sit with a high drive dog. Like there's answers, there's solutions. I have friends that are much more thoughtful. Before they train, they have a very clear pattern of what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, and they will abort the session and go in the house if it doesn't go according to plan. I never walk out my door without an idea of where I'm starting. I don't do that. Like I don't want to go out there and be hanging, right? But once I have one or two things, I actually like the on the fly. If things go a little off plan, most of the time in real time, I can come up with a solution. And if not, because my dogs are older and trained, I can put them on a downstay. Hold on one sec. Hey, whoever's in the kitchen, could you take it down a notch or two? Son, husband. I actually didn't know he was awake to tell. But
I think that goes into what we're hardwired for.
Yeah.
Like we're hardwired for problem solving. We're hardwired for foraging, for hunting. And I think that problem solving is so much more developed I think in our high drive dogs and high drive humans. Yeah, I mean, that's just something that I've seen across the board.
You just sent me an article about some breeds of dogs are different than others in their willingness to look to humans. Now, this wasn't about drive, but what I thought was interesting, it was about dog breeds, that some breeds of dogs, well, categories of breeds, not breeds, so groups like herding dogs, retrievers, dogs that have historically been bred to cooperate with people are more likely to take benefit and value from a human, giving them help and direction to solving a problem. But then, of course, because this is how my brain goes, I immediately started thinking about the higher drive dogs and wondering if there's a tie-in there. Like, do the higher drive dogs look to us more or less, and under what?
And I don't think so. I was thinking about that too. You know, I talk about directability in my little thing, and it's the teamwork. And I think so many of the dogs in protection sports, because I come from SAR and protection sports, I don't come from the herding, and I don't know anything about that. but I'm thinking about them, and I get a lot of the dogs that get frustrated easily that are like, I know what we're doing, just get out of my way.
Yeah.
And so I don't really consider them team players.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, that directability, and now they're very biddable. I mean, they want to work with me. They want to do the things I want to do, but they're not directable. They're not team players. They have their drives. They want to do their things. So I don't know. And then I was even thinking about the intelligence of high drive dogs, because I know that kind of got me hung up for a bit, where I'm like, I can't really think of that many dumb high drive dogs. But thinking more about it, no, there's quite a few, because they sometimes don't have enough smarts to even preserve their own being. You know, I think about some of the SAR dogs that have tragically died because they've jumped off of, cliffs, and they've jumped off of, just sad stories, because they didn't have enough smarts to even preserve their own being.
I don't know.
And is that intelligence? I don't know.
Even tease apart intelligence from motivation? Because when I am highly motivated around a thing, then I want to learn it in a different way. I care about it. So highly motivated is a huge part of rate of learning. For, I don't know how we want to define intelligence, but rate of learning. And I think the fact that my dogs like the things I'm teaching them, probably one, because I often teach them things they like to do, but two, because I've got the motivators for things they don't like. So it's not that my dogs dislike anything. At the end of the day, I think they like everything, but some things are intrinsically interesting. Bite work is intrinsically interesting to learn. Obedience, probably not, but it doesn't matter because I have the motivator. So I still control something they care a lot about.
But I think we could say that biting is a primary reinforcer, though. I mean, it's
that's what
so, I mean, just alone
they really want to learn it. Whereas obedience, I have to figure it out.
Right.
And if you think about sports divided up according to which ones you control and which ones you don't, one of the advantages to the biting sports is that you do control your decoy. I mean, I assume you do. And you can always put a kennel on the field and tell them to step into it if you want to prevent the dog from self-reinforcing or drop the sleeve or whatever. We have ways to make the work more or less reinforcing depending on whether or not the dog is cooperating. But think about a sport like herding. As a general rule, if your sheep are going to run, your sheep are going to run. And you having an opinion about that and yelling at the sheep, don't run, isn't actually going to work. So that is, I think, a big advantage that we have as people who do the things we do, that we actually can control circumstances. Because I think we all know that one or two really poor timed chases sticks in a dog's memory in a way. Once they go after a deer, you didn't stop them in time, and they just had the best time of their life. And it's like, I got to deal with this forever. So I think some sports do bring a little challenge to that table.
So I guess what would make a good trainer or handler of high drive dogs? Because one of the things you just said that I think is key is those that can kind of see the future. they can see quickly what's going to happen next. Yeah, I think that's definitely one of those things.
Yeah, that's why we talk about experienced handlers. It's not that the dogs are harder to train. In my opinion, the dogs are sometimes embarrassingly easy to train because they are motivated. But if the handler can't see what they need to see in real time or identify, oh, the dog just did this thing that's incredibly hard to teach. I wonder if I could get that a couple more times and just change this exercise altogether and get that. Like, so for example, my dog doesn't bark. Probably partly because he's not a barking dog, but partly because I don't like barking dogs. So unlike most of my friends who taught their puppies at 8 weeks to bark, I'm like, no, I don't want my dog barking at me when he wants things. Plus, I don't use frustration in my training. And frustration's a really straightforward and easy way to get barking on your dog. I didn't do any of those things. So now I have a dog that doesn't bark. Let me tell you, if I went outside and as a result, I have to teach barking. And for some reason he barked at me, oh my God, I would do it. I would care what I was planning on teaching or whatever, I would pivot because I would be like, oh no, I need this skill. And I would change direction and grab it if I could. But to me, a lot of that kind of experienced high drive handlers, because they are learning fast and they're often physically moving quickly. So a dog that offers, 15 behaviors in a minute is a totally different animal to teach than one that does something and then stops and looks and thinks. Things happen fast. So it's nice to be able to practice on dogs that aren't quite that edgy.
I think, too, I like, I don't remember who said it, but someone said one of us has to be calm.
I didn't know that. I do like that. Yeah,
That one really stuck with me. I was like, oh, yeah, because it's not going to be my dog.
somebody's got to have a clear head in this place, and it's not
Yeah,
not going to be
someone's
me.
someone's
Oh,
going to be
Brittany.
calm. Someone's going to have to be the adult here. I'm like, oh, and I look at checkmate like, no, that ain't you, buddy.
So you're forced to explore other parts of your personality. If I think back over my life, I used to be pretty wired. I don't think I am anymore. I think I'm pretty mellow. I don't know what other people think, but I was pretty wound up for the first 30 odd years. And now I can calm down easily, I think. Again, other people are like,
It was
you're
hard
so
for me
misguided.
before Lyme disease. I was, oh my gosh. I mean, I you couldn't keep me still. I mean, legs are always bouncing, always moving. I mean, that's just I couldn't stay still. It was so hard. And so I think after Lyme disease, it actually helped me in a few ways.
Yeah.
Because it's, I'm not so wired all the time.
You can
But
write
it's
on your
still like my
tombstone.
brain's always going. Ugh.
But that's good when the brain moves and the body stops. We got some really
Yeah.
interesting questions here. You want to answer a couple
Oh yeah.
questions?
What is it?
I love
Sure.
this one.
Let's.
Question to ask breeders to get a sense of whether the dam, sire, and family are high drive or just lots of arousal. I
You
love
going or
this
not
question.
going? Who's
You
going?
are.
Okay. What's your activity? I mean, that's the first thing. I want to know what is your desired activity, and I want to know, like, mine's bite sports, and so or search and rescue. So depending on what it is that I want, so like search and rescue is easier in a lot of ways because I need a good hunt drive. So I need a dog that's going to really go out there through all conditions, adversity, and keep looking for the thing. So that's the kind of questions I would ask. Would be how do you assess your dog's hunt drive? And kind of just start from there. So I would be very specific. And
Yeah.
if they're like, what is hunt drive? Well, if you throw a ball out in that field, is your dog going to go hunt for that thing? And how long will they do it? Will they do it until you tell them otherwise? And so like in American Schutzhund, they have one of the tests for 5 minutes. They pretend like they put the thing into this big container, storage container thing, and they send the dogs into search. It's not there. They just pretend to do it. So they want to see how long will that dog persevere. And that's one of the tests we do for hunting is to see how long will they continue to go thinking or believing or hoping that it might be there. It's not, but how long will they go? So those are kind of, that's not arousal at all. That's, are they truly searching?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I would ask.
Well, that actually gets me to part of my response is if I'm buying a dog for a specific sport and that sport requires a specific type of drive for the behavior, because drive, we probably shouldn't say that. We should probably be a little clearer about what we mean. Like, so for example, my own dog, I would say he's very moderate food drive. I cannot easily use food with him. But he's very high in other drives. So it does kind of matter. Like some people would really want that really high food drive because they need it. Personally, I don't need it that much. I can get around it if I don't have it. But let's say, like you specified, hunt drive. One of the things I tell people is if something matters a lot to you, you want to do search and rescue, you need hunt drive. You want to do bite sports, you need a strong desire to bite. Buy a dog from somebody who is doing that thing with those dogs or has a depth of knowledge in that area or sells dogs from those parents to other people who are doing those things because talk is cheap. And there's a whole lot of people out there who are quite sure their dogs can do everything that their breed is supposed to do. And they're very open about how, oh no, my dog could do that great. I just don't have time, desire, whatever. I'm like, and that may be true, but I'm not the
Mm-hmm.
one I don't want to be your guinea pig. I buy dogs
Yeah.
that are from lines that have demonstrated depth and breadth in that pedigree of ability in an area that's either the same as or strongly related to the one I want to do. But the arousal piece of this question is interesting. So how do you know if you have high drive or just lots of arousal? And this, I was talking to Stacey Barnett about this earlier today. And this whole drive arousal thing, arousal's not bad.
No.
It's not like arousal's bad and drive is good. It's a little unusual to find a dog who has tons of drive and just exactly enough arousal to turn on only when you want it. I mean, it's possible, but it's not super common. So most of us are a little bit flexible. We'll take a little bit of excess movement, noise, activity, whatever. We take a little extra arousal because we really want the drive.
Mm-hmm.
But I think asking people to do the thing, like looking for breeders whose dogs are doing the thing is the quickest way to determine if the dog really brings the thing to the table, as opposed to just a lot of movement. Because this is it's a huge, complex topic. What's good? What's bad? Arousal's bad. No, it's not. I mean, it might be annoying. That's true. Arousal in your house can be really annoying, but it doesn't make arousal bad. Just like a kid who's busy and up and running around, it's just not bad. The problem is,
No, but I'm a pain in the ass. Like, I know that. I was a pain in the ass for my parents. Like, it was so hard to keep a hold of me and keep me still. It made them crazy, and I get that. And it's the same thing. I guess that's why my dogs bouncing around a lot don't bother me, because I'm like, I get it. I get you. Like, you got to move. It's even in my high school classroom. I have it set up that my kids that have to move a lot, they have a spot in the back of the room. They get up, they move around, they can jump around, they can bounce around and do whatever they got to do. I get it. Like, it's so hard to sit still.
a hard time sitting still. It gets easier with age, but it's always been a problem.
I mean, even now, like, I'm bouncing my leg. I was trying to make sure I'm not bouncing the table.
Yeah, I do that too. I wiggle my feet like perpetually, 24 hours a day. I guess
man,
just don't move.
Too.
What a concept.
Yeah. I couldn't understand.
I do love my high drive, very moderate arousal boy. It's just so easy to live with him. I mean, that's most of his life.
And I think that's what the heart of it, though, is to get to that medium arousal. They're much easier to live with. The higher arousal, they're just a pain in the ass. Like, I know it. I feel it. I am it.
Traditionally, most of my Belgians have been on the high arousal side. Super quick to trigger. Not always, but just a little bit more sporty, light, quick. Fun to train, though. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. They just bring so much to the table all the time. But
I go back to pedigree, too. Something you said. So, like, Checkmate comes from PSA lines.
Yeah.
And PSA is not known for tracking and for hunting. And he has been the most difficult dog I have had to teach tracking. It is not natural for him. It is so, so hard. And so I do believe there's a lot to be said. If you have an activity that you want to do, find dogs that are already doing that activity. I'm just going to just reiterate what you said, because tracking with him has taught me so much. I mean, it's really taken us a long time to develop that hunting ability. He's still, if I go out and I just play hunting games to try to build his hunt drive, it's so hard. I mean, it's really hard. And I think with protection sports and search and rescue, that's something that I will forever look for, is a really high hunt drive, because I need that for both of my sports.
Yeah, that they stick it out. The dog who has traditionally given me the best scores in tracking was also very, very easy to train. So it's nice for me because I can take credit for those scores. But the reality is it was easy because...
Yeah, but you're a good trainer, so knock it off.
Well, but she came with it. And the other one I was trialing around the same time, I put in 10 times more energy, 10 times more effort, but she was French ring lines, and they don't have... and she was super frantic, super high arousal. I mean, all the time. She drove me nuts, actually. It was very hard to get high scores on her because it wasn't in her nature. Actually, she had good hunt drive, and she was good at tracking, but IPO has a requirement for a way of tracking. And that's a lot more than hunt drive. That's actually food drive, too. Yeah. Because it's the checking but I actually say, I think in some ways, IPO actually takes the hunt out of the track. Because a dog who's truly hunting is going to use all of their senses, and they're going to be making decisions based on solving the problem, finding the track layer, whereas IGP is really about the dog showing this behavior, which still interests me because I do think it's a reflection of the dog's ability to calm down and focus hard when nothing is happening. But I don't usually call that hunt drive. Like, I wouldn't say that a dog who's really good at IGP has great hunt drive, but it still shows me qualities I really like. And see,
I think about I have to have a lot of hunt drive to be able to teach the way that I teach it. So if they don't have that ability to endure and keep their nose down for a long period of time and continue to sniff, so that's the hunt drive piece that I really strive to have. If it's already in there naturally, it's so much easier.
So much easier.
But when I can throw a ball out there and he gives up after like 30 seconds and he's like, I'm off doing something else, and it's nothing nose activated, he just does not have that desire to keep his nose looking for anything. He's like, nope, off to something else.
Interesting.
That's where the hunt drive, I think, is still super important even for the IGP.
So do you think, I mean, I wonder if dogs can have a component of ADHD that is
Oh,
linked
yes.
to kind of the arousal piece that, like ADHD hyperfocus. I've got a lot of that. So if I'm really into something, I'm actually exceptionally focused on it. So you could have a dog that had ADHD and hyperfocuses on things they like, but really struggles with things they don't because the world is like, especially the higher arousal ones who do see all the
Hmm.
things out there. Um,
Yeah, his name is Yukon. My Dutch Shepherd. That is him
oh,
right there.
yeah.
He will get super hyper focused on something that he wants to do, and then it can be the only thing that consumes him, and then all of a sudden there's a butterfly and he's off to be something completely hyper focused on something else, and that
Yeah.
thing he originally just had to have doesn't have to have it anymore. So yeah, I think yeah, I have one, and it's a fascinating life to have.
Yes. Here's another question. What about training do you find easier with dogs with amp drive, and what is harder?
Your turn.
To me, anything that's skill based is easier because once I've set up a situation and I'm controlling the situation, if I set it up well, then I find that high drive dogs, the combination of motivation, focus, and I think some degree of raw intelligence and their ability to work for a long time makes it very easy to teach them skills. The problem is 95% of life is not actually formal training, and 90% of training for competition is not about skills. So that's where things get a little more exciting because 90% of the time I need to start spending with Zen going forward is about other stuff. It's about being on new fields. It's about arousal modulation in different environments. It's about the spaces in between the exercises. So you do your healing and now the judge is writing for 45 seconds. And now what are you going to do, right? Keeping the dog not so on that they're exhausting themselves, like finding a way to keep them under control in those spaces in between. Teaching all of those things, I think, is a big part of the picture and is often overlooked. It's true for all dogs. But I just think that because they don't naturally take to those things, I think that can be a challenge. And then life, because my dogs are pets and way quick to spark to things that happen in the environment compared to if I go to a friend's house, walk in their door, their dog, golden retriever, overwhelmingly greets me at the door, and then 30 seconds later is laying down again. Like it's just sort of, oh, I love new people, but it never gets out of control, frantic. Happy, hyper,
Mm-hmm.
yes, but it's all just done with fast. And then the owner's like, okay, go lay down now, and the dog does. I'm not talking about a puppy. Like, wow, that's kind of amazing. And not nearly as like you stand up and go to the bathroom and the dog doesn't leave up. I find that the high drive dogs are every change in the environment triggers them. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that while very beneficial in some ways, can make them really challenging. So to me, the biggest
Mm-hmm.
challenge with the high drive dogs is not around training, it's around living.
Yeah. Yeah, you hit that on the nose.
Is that's about how you see it
I'm also curious, do you ever get bored?
in life?
Yeah, have you ever been bored?
Yeah.
I don't know what that feels like. What is
Get bored?
bored? I don't think so.
I don't get bored very much anymore because I'm doing things all the time. I'm busy. But when I was young and before I had a hobby of my own, summers were painful for me because I didn't know what to do with myself. So I read. Oh my God, I read for 14 hours a day, like obsessively,
Wow.
which was great. I'd walk to the library, check out 10 books, and literally bring them back a few days later. I just sucked everything down I could find, but I had a hard time finding things to do with myself. But now there's so many aspects of the dog direction. I mean, it could be training, it could be like I do social media stuff, it could just be like grooming the dogs, right? Taking a walk. So I don't know, is the walk for me or the dogs, right? There's so many things that I do that are related to dogs or the ranch, which is what I spent the last 4 days, 12
Yeah.
hours a day putting down a floor.
It looks awesome too. Oh man, you're doing a great job.
Wait till you feel it. Oh my
Oh, I
God, it's
bet it's
exactly what I wanted.
awesome.
soft underneath,
Oh,
grippy on top, a
yes,
little bit sticky.
yes, yes.
Very excited about that.
So
Yeah.
excited. Yeah,
So
I ask about the bored thing because I don't think I've ever felt bored. I just can't think of, I don't even really understand the concept of bored. And so then I kind of wonder with our high drive dogs, I think sometimes people will say, well, they get bored easily, so then they self-employ and they create their own jobs. And I'm thinking, you know, I've never felt bored, but I've always, and I'm an only child, you know, so I've always had this desire to just do things. And so I don't know. It's just something that I don't perceive, and maybe it's just you know, words, whatever. But I just think they're always fascinated by the world. Like, I guess maybe I'm just projecting myself into them, but I'm just fascinated by what's happening, and I'm curious as to what this does, or curious what that does. And so always busy. So
yeah,
I don't know that they're bored. Some people say that about them, and that's what makes them so hard, is because they get bored easily, and that they have this desire to go create their own jobs. And so I try to give them, through my management of my environment, kind of jobs that they think that they're going to go and create on their own, but really I set that up for them. You know,
yeah,
so like I made a dig box in the backyard, and before they went in the backyard, I went and put some treats in the dig box. So that's going to entertain them for quite a while. So
yeah,
they go out there, now they have this new spot where they get to dig and dig up all these treats. And it's like, yeah, they're self-employed. They think that they're doing something on their own, but really it's stuff that I've kind of created for them. So I guess that's the easy part is, you know, they're looking for a job, and you just or I guess it's the hard part too. The hard part is they're looking for a job, and you have to be able to think about what jobs you're going to give them. And most importantly, you have to teach them to be calm.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
that's the hardest part is, can you just relax for a minute?
Well, I think it's like you said, it's how are you defining bored? I
Yeah.
was out with Zen, so he came with me on 3 of the last 4 days, and he never slept. So from the time we got up in the morning until I returned to the RV at night to sleep, he did not sleep. Now you compare that to your average dog, your average pet dog, and even if you took them somewhere new, they would sleep. But he didn't, because he had, I don't know, 5 or 6 people, and any one of them at any one, he's a very optimistic boy,
Yeah.
at any chance might throw a toy for him. And that's how he
Yeah.
spent his entire day. He would rest with the ball. He would hold his ball and watch the people watch for a little while. And then he would get up and go to one of them to see if they might do something with him. No? Okay. He'd go off to another. He'd lay down again. But he doesn't just sleep. And if you think about that, let's say you have a person who requires 2 hours of sleep a night, and you have somebody else who requires 14 hours of sleep a night. Well, I don't know if I'd call it about boredom or not, but the one who only requires 2 has a lot more hours in the day to fill with things they might want to do. So you
Mm-hmm.
work for 8 or 9 or 10, whatever, and you eat. That person's going to get a lot done. The person who takes a lot of sleep doesn't have the opportunity. And I look at my dogs and I'm like, just the tendency to be awake or aware many more hours of the day, it's got to be a factor in
Yeah.
this. And then
Yeah.
that does get to the next question, by the way. Living with high drive, spicy dogs in a multi-dog household. I am giving you this
Spicy.
because I go out of my way not to live in a complex household, and you don't do that. So you can take that one.
Oh boy. Don't do it. Just don't do it. It's a lifestyle for sure.
It is.
I used
That's
to
a
have 4,
great phrase.
and one was retired, and so you would think that he didn't, you know, take as much energy, but I was his caregiver. So now you have a senior dog that you're a caregiver and still has the brain of that, you know, IGP, Mondio Ring, do all the thing dog. And so I almost kind of think the senior dog that I was the caregiver for took the most time and the most energy. And I can see that now looking back. At the time, I didn't feel that, but now I'm like, wow, that was a lot. And so I think even the stages of their life, and then the puppy is going to be all consuming as well. So it's kind of like the two ends of the lives are the times, and for me so
Yeah.
far with the dogs that I've had have been the times that require the most of me. And it's the hardest part is bringing a puppy into a high drive lifestyle. You know, maybe it's controversial, but I used a tetherboard, and that was a game changer for us, because it allowed Radish, my little lab Malinois, to still be in with the household, but the other dogs didn't have to constantly be interacting with her, and she kind of got to learn the rules of the house and how things work. And then it still gave me a chance to train her and still be in the same space. But like an X-Pen ain't going to work. I mean, they're going to be out of that in 2 seconds. There's no containment that's going to work. And so that's the best way that I could find. But I know people had different thoughts on different ways of whatever. But that puppy stage, man, that's where you set everything. And you have to put all of that in. It's like pre-programming and getting all of that in. And at the same time, still not neglecting the other ones in your household. And I have a crate and rotate situation. Checkmate has had 2 hips replaced now. He just got released on July 1st, and now he's limping on his good hip that he just got replaced.
Oh.
And so I'm like messaging Ohio State today, and I'm like, okay, Kim, I'm trying not to jump off a ledge here. Like, help me out. And she's like, he's probably sore. Quit freaking out. And I'm like, okay. So I think there's like some PTSD too, because
Yes.
you've had 2 hips replaced. You've had, another dog, like you kind of walking by and he's clicking. I'm like, why are you clicking? So like something's hurting on him. I'm like, no. So that's also part of the high drive lifestyle of dogs that are super active. Yukon's a goat. He wants to get on top of everything. So I have to manage his environment to keep him safe. So yeah, it's just a lot of work. It is a lifestyle. And, like Ellen was talking and she was like, no, everybody's calm. We don't play in the house. And I'm thinking, I play in the house. I train in the house. It's just, I guess maybe I'm just doing it wrong.
Well, I do have rules about that. Like if they bring me a toy in the house, I won't start playing ball or play tug.
No,
So
I don't do that, but it's on words.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on words.
But I don't. I am careful about that. And I learned that the hard way. I had a dog years ago and I did play ball and she'd make me crazy. And I'll tell people who walk in, if I was you, I would not touch that toy that dog just brought you. If you want to go play, go outside.
Yeah.
You can go play with the dog, and that's fine. And that I would say it helps. And
Right.
I also have, especially with the babies, when I do a ton of training, because what the hell do you do with a baby dog? I mean, you can only walk them so much. They're awake a lot, and they're either making trouble or you're figuring something out for them. So I would use food, and I train a lot in the house for that. Kind of in one area, but there's so many contextual cues around that I can make that work.
Right.
Like I'm in the specific space. I just went and got food. I took you out to go to the bathroom. There's all these things
Right.
that I do. I think I've lived with 3 or maybe 4 Belgians at a time because I used to take care of my friend's dog, so daycare kind of a thing. So she would drop her puppy off every morning. It was from my breeding program, and it was hard. It was really hard. It was just everybody wanted attention, and I often felt like somebody was getting the short end of the stick. I did not love that. And I don't have the temperament to do crate and rotate. Like you all just have to get along. I can't live that way. And I hope I don't ever find myself in that situation because I don't have
hard. It sucks.
Yeah, I don't even have the ability to remember. You know what I mean? Like who's where when, and I live with other people and they're not dog people. So then I'm at risk of they let this door open, that gate. I don't think I can do it.
Yeah.
But
it's so hard because Checkmate and Yukon were best buddies, and I was very careful about managing their play, not letting them get over the top. And when I learned that Checkmate had bad hips, it's when they were playing, and Yukon moved in kind of a weird way, and when Checkmate twisted, it popped his hip out. And from that moment forward, he has thought Yukon needs to die. Yukon didn't do anything wrong. It was just the circumstance. And people say dogs don't hold grudges. I'm telling you, from that moment forward, Checkmate just was like, nope, Yukon must die. And Yukon is like the sweetest lug. I mean, he is just, like when the Girl Scouts, we have different things for search and rescue. He's the dog that goes and sees them. Big old Dutch Shepherd with the little floppy ear because he got what are those, like those cauliflower ear things?
Yeah.
Yeah, he got bit by a bug, and when he shook, it broke his ear. But he's the Girl Scout dog. Like, the Girl Scout steps on him, and he's like, hey, don't do that. And they're hugging him. I mean, he's that dog. He just loves everybody and everything, except for skunks.
He loves them, too.
Yeah.
He just wanted to say hi. Just wanted to be a friend. Yeah.
So quick story, I went to the ranch. Denise invited me out there, and I'm like, yeah, I can call him off anything. And from deer and everything else, and then maybe 5 minutes later he meets a skunk, and this skunk was like they're nose to nose, and he's like, and I'm like, get off, get away, and Yukon's like, nope, not leaving. And so the skunk turns around and even kind of slow and squirts him, and then Yukon still comes back for more, like, we're still friends, right? And he squirts him again. And this is also, Denise, after you tell me about these foxtails, about how, don't get them in their eyes or their ears because it's like a vet bill.
Yep.
And what does Yukon do?
Yep.
He like slams his face into the foxtails to start getting the skunk juice off. I'm like, well, I guess we're heading to the vet too.
Yeah. And this is, for those of you who just want to get a little visual, this is in the evening. The sun is going down because she's just got there. So we're like, okay, we won't be going to
27-hour drive.
Right. So we go to the store and have to buy the special supplies and keep the dog out. And then it's like, now what do we do with him? We can't put him in the van. It was sort of like, it was a good start to our weekend. We got to know each other.
And I'm van life. So it's like, oh boy, skunk boy in the van. But this is just Yukon. This is who he is.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry about that.
So here's a question. Can a dog be high drive for a specific type of work, but not high drive for other activities? And I would love to take this one on because that guy also went to the ranch yesterday. And I never patrolling where he believed the rat or mouse was. I'm quite sure it was there because he's not going to be wrong that long. Patrolling. I would have to go get him, stop him, bring him to the water. He would take 2 sips and go right back to it. So super high drive. So why do I call him a low drive dog? Because I worked so hard to train this little dog. It's a lot of work because he can't suspend reality. And to me, when we're talking about high drive and we're talking about people and dog sports, there is an assumption that there is something in that biological need, in his case, hunting for his animal, that we can use and the dog will choose to suspend reality in order to play the game. So what would that be? Well, if he could look at my tug toy and say, I'll pretend like that's a mouse, that's suspending reality. If he would do that, he could be trained lickety-split in almost any sport, but he doesn't. And while one could start, parting hairs and say, well, yeah, but then drive has no meaning, but it does. And the reality is if I'm hanging out with other like-minded people and they talk about their dog's drive and give me examples, I know exactly what they're talking about. So it's a useful place for vocabulary. But unless the drive is, no, it would be totally different if I was hunting with him and hunting mice and rats. I would say he's high drive, as far as I know. But I don't know, do I? Because I don't hang out with people who do that. So I don't know what he compares to. I would drive as an adjective. So what is small? Small compared to what? Is he high drive? I was impressed by that. But you know what? I haven't spent time around terriers. Maybe he's not high drive. Maybe the fact that he didn't rip all the sheetrock off the wall suggests he's is that his form of drive has been, if it is usable, I have been very slow to find my way. That's all I can, and I'm trying, and I am thinking about what happened yesterday and trying to think how I might incorporate it. But when I think of a high drive dog, I don't have to work that hard. It's easy to take that interest that they have, that prey sequence, and apply it to almost anything with a little bit of skill around my motivators. And the fact that I have to work with every ounce of what I know just very quickly puts them in a low drive category. Now, maybe someday I'll find the ticket. Wouldn't that be awesome? I'll talk about it a lot. People will be interested. But I don't have it yet. And the fact that I have to work that hard, you don't have to work that hard with low drive dogs. Doesn't mean they won't give you a lot of grief around a lot of areas, but not about finding a motivator. That's the easy part. Now, applying that motivator to work, that might be a different matter. But if I had a mouse in my pocket and he knew I was going to put that on the ground and let him get it, there's no question in my mind I could teach him anything I needed to teach him. Arousal might be an issue, but I could teach him because I know how to do that. I don't have that, and I'm not going to go to the pet store and buy myself a pile of mice because that would be really disgusting. But it would work. It would.
How about mechanical mice?
I don't know. I don't know. He rotates the toy a little bit. So today I was kind of playing around with putting it under things. Like I have this metal sheet outside and then tapping it and moving it and trying to make it simulate what he was doing to the wall yesterday, which he did find interesting. So I'm going to sort of explore what happens if I sit on it myself. What if I put it in one of my pockets and bring it out in certain ways? Can I make that work? So anyway, that's what I'm thinking about playing. Do you have anything you want to talk about there?
What was the question again? I was just enamored by your story.
Oh, well, that's a good thing, isn't it? Can a dog show a lot of drive in one way and not really be drive?
That's right. So, one of the things I thought was fantastic when I finally decided on search and rescue for Yukon because he was really into sniffing. I mean, that was what killed me in everything I kept trying to do because it was just always about the dirt. And people would say, we had to be more interesting than dirt. Oh, if I heard that one more time, I was going to just, I was already ready to not be a trainer anymore. I'm like, no, I can't do this. Like, he has proven to me that I'm not worthy to be a trainer. It was that bad because I tried everything. And the most important thing to him was sniffing. And so then I thought, okay, I'll get into a sniffing area. And so I got hooked up in search and rescue. And I thought, and I had a video, I just posted it on my CBK9 Facebook group not too long ago. And I said, what a great problem to have. And he was at the source, which was cadaver, and he wouldn't leave it. And I said, yes, I gave him his marker word. It wasn't yes, but it was get it, which is his marker word, that you get to get the toy that I thought was great. And he would not leave the source. And I thought, what a great problem to have. No, it was the worst problem to have because there was nothing more interesting than sniffing and sniffing for things that he wanted to find.
Right.
And so if I don't have a reinforcement system that's stronger than the things that he is smelling and going for, so it's a really difficult, complex problem.
Yeah.
So yes, he has a ton of drive for the things that he wants.
Yeah.
But trying to figure out what that want is when the goalpost is always shifting. I would have to get a different toy every single session because a different toy, it was that novelty, and he loves novelty. So that's what I was playing off of. So I spent a lot of money making toys and buying toys because if it could be novel, he could enjoy that. And so I could at least use that to keep going a little bit. But then the novelty wore off, or it was like,
right.
because I had something different every time,
right.
He's like, yeah, you got something different, whatever.
That's exhausting to have to work that hard.
So hard. So when you said that earlier about, it's exhausting. It really is.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think dogs can have, so I would not call Yukon a high drive dog.
Yeah.
I would call him higher arousal.
Yeah.
But very high drive for the thing that he wants. I would say he's probably medium to low drive in a lot of areas because what's functional? There's just not a lot of functional drive there.
Yep, that's
but he's got
great way to put it.
Excellent food drive.
That's a great
excellent food drive. So people would say if you have excellent food drive, then you can teach him anything. But not really. I'm still stuck.
So Stacy said, my dogs are not allowed to play together in the house and selectively together depending on the dog. Yeah, and that's unfortunately one of the things about the higher drive dogs that I've observed is that they can also have a lot of personality. And I think it makes them more likely to have personality conflict because they care about a lot of things. They care about attention. Now another high drive dog comes along, that one wants attention. It feels that as a result of their temperament, they also have more room for conflict. And they're more likely to be strong about what they want and to persist in what they want. And now you have issues. Whereas you can have a house full of dogs that are pretty mellow and not like that, and not that everything is big in their world. Like, so for a lot of high drive dogs, I think everything's big. And that can create conflict, which can also make it a lot harder to live with a pile of them rather than just a few.
Yeah, put a bunch of type A people together and see what you get. It's the same idea.
Exactly. That's why a really great team, you've got variety in there. You've got people who stop and think and come back later. You've got people who make quick decisions, and hopefully you have respect. So you can all get your point of view in over time and come to a really great decision. But the high drive dogs are like, me now, what I want, how I want it. And it can be really hard to get them. The fact that Elaine has 10 in her house, getting along impresses me greatly. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I've got 3 and I got the 2 that don't. So, hey,
I know.
I have a lot to learn. Well, you're talking about the barking too. Like even when I brought Radish home, she was just screaming and barking in the kennel from day one. Same thing with Checkmate from Chicago all the way to my house, just barking the whole way. And those are things now that next dog, that's something that I will look at and go, nope, that's a deal breaker for me. Because it's just, it's tiring. I'm really tired. Because it's just when they're nonstop like that, when you know it day one, it just makes it rough. It's like, why have that battle? Now that I'm 45, I'm like, I only have so much time to have maybe one more protection dog because it's expensive. It's so expensive and I don't have the money for it. And so if I'm going to be the decoy for that dog, I know it's going to be a while because I already have 3 high drive dogs, but on 2 and then whatever. But bringing another dog into that household, I've got to have the perfect dog in this mix.
Yeah.
Because I've already got crate and rotate.
Yep.
I've got so much that I got to think about. But
Well, the
that
good
screaming
thing
and the
is
barking and all of that, I don't need it.
arousal, I do think shows up early. I think at 8 weeks of
Mm-hmm.
I remember at 6 weeks of age taking a puppy because she was so insane. Because at that time I didn't understand the difference between drive and arousal. The good thing about arousal, it shows up early. You see it. 8, 9 weeks, you know you got a live wire. Drive, on the other hand, does not necessarily show up early. It's often quite a bit older. Zen was very slow to show. Like consistent interest in biting, consistent interest in doing stuff. He wasn't a baby. But he's just a lower arousal dog. So that's why for drive, it's got to be in the pedigree. Because if I'm going to take that puppy, I need to know it's going to come. And I don't want to just pick the craziest one because now I just have a high arousal dog who may or may not have good drive. And now I'm stuck with a dog I don't really want to live with. So that's something.
I do wish that you would know exactly the arousal, though, because like with Nakota, his arousal turned on. He was like real sluggish.
Really?
And his arousal turned on, and it was just like, whoa, who are you? He just kept waking up and waking up. I mean, that's what I call it anyway.
Yeah.
So I wish that you would know for certain.
My lines it's pretty clear at a young age what you have in arousal, not in drive, but the arousal. Sometimes drive just shocks me. Like a puppy that was so sleepy, and you were like, there's nothing there. And then you see it at 2, and there's a lot there. That's why I'm like, for me, it's pedigree, parents, puppy. That's how I select because I just have so much faith in generations and generations of it showed up eventually because it's right here. And then I'm going to look at the parents. And then I can worry about the puppy. But for me, I would rather take any puppy from the right litter without even looking at them than take one that I pick from a litter where I know nothing about its parents or pedigree. Just you can take what you like.
Oh, for real, yeah. And it's still a crapshoot. I mean, I look at Yukon. He was the pick of the litter. I mean, Yukon was the best puppy. He was the best puppy in all the classes. He was so focused and so driven. He's in all of the promo videos for the breeder. Like, he was that dog. And then, I don't know, hormones hit, and then it was just a different dog. He just changed. I mean, after puberty, he totally changed, just like Nakota did. It was just the strangest thing. It was like just different genes turned on and turned off. It was bizarre.
Yeah.
I love them. They're good dogs.
We actually did get another question. I was not aware that if you press the little question, you can make fun of me, but anyway, the little question thing on the bottom, if you click it, it shows you questions. Hey. So I just clicked it.
I don't think I can see it on my side. I can't see anything.
It says,
no, I can't see anything.
Does the consumption part of prey sequence count for drive? Dog stays in the game for the food, not for the play.
Oh, man, I don't know many dogs that way. I mean, even like with Ray and Lorna Coppinger's work, it's like they talk about it. The dopamine is hitting because of the activity itself. Rarely is it the end goal of like consuming the food. It's the actual thing of chasing, of biting, of killing. So that would be an unusual case, in my opinion.
I do see dogs that are super high in food drive and they don't have a lot of other drive. But I mean, food is also, there's more to it. Like there's also, are you hungry? Are you eating a lot? I mean, there's other things that kind of play into that beyond the prey sequence that would make sense to me. I mean, for sure with people.
I might have misunderstood the question.
Let me find it again.
Yeah, sorry about that. I thought it was something about the predatory sequence.
Does the consumption part of prey sequence count for drive? Dog stays in the game for the food, not the play or the prey.
Okay, so they're saying food drive then.
Yeah. And would you count that as
I was actually
sequence?
Okay.
I think this gets back to something I think we mentioned earlier, or I think is kind of complicated. We tend to say the dog is high drive when really we should be more specific because there's so many feats. What part of that sequence? Is it the chasing? Is it the grabbing? Is it the biting? Is it the killing? And it, no doubt about it, there are dogs that just have it all. They from start to finish, they are high or medium or low or whatever. But most dogs, I think, have areas where they show more or less. But when I think of food, I do think of it as also having a completely separate place that it comes from, which is simply hunger and has nothing to do with searching for the food. I mean, look at your Labrador. You put down 30 cups of food in a bowl and it eats all 30 cups of food and then it goes back to sleeping. And it's not a matter of drive at all. It's just that they have this incredibly great love. Maybe they have more taste buds than all the other breeds of dogs. I don't know. And many of them do have that special gene that makes them feel always hungry, that insatiable
Yeah.
thing, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for dogs that have that. I really do.
Oh,
I don't
man.
like being hungry. And I know some dogs that eat so little and they struggle so much with their weight. And I think it's a tragedy. I always give my dogs as much as they can eat without gaining weight. Because I don't
Mm-hmm.
want them to be hungry. I don't use that in my
Right.
training.
Right.
Even a dog like Zen, he eats a huge amount of food and he's thin. He eats 2 pounds of food a day, which is a lot. So basically I give him as much as he'll eat, but then he can only eat so much. I'm like, okay, I tried. I just feel bad because
Yeah.
he's just eating. Anyway, so we're almost
Yeah,
at
I
an
think,
hour. I'm just kind
well,
of
it is important, like you said, you got to think about the different kinds of drives. So it's, again, it goes back to, is there hunt drive? Is there, and I don't think talking about food drive is necessarily part of, and not everything has to be part of the predatory sequence. That's just a way for us to kind of look at and start to try to understand their motivations. And I think sometimes we do get hung up too much in just saying, is it part of this motor pattern? And even there, like we had talked about on the podcast, that I think it was a podcast, we said something about, they're not trying to eat the decoy.
Right. No.
That's not really,
No,
the end goal is
true.
not consumption.
It might
It's about
be to shred,
the
but that's to dissect. But then they
yeah.
usually stop. Actually, Zen did
Yeah.
catch a rabbit, killed it, and when I called him, he just walked away from it, which I thought
It's
was
the action.
really interesting. It was gone. It was, and it wasn't even all the way dead actually. I wanted to get him away so I could go back and decide what was the best course of action. But he called away from it once it was down, and he broke it. So it was broken and down, and it was very easy to get him away. Now the terrier, on the other hand, I had to pick him up and carry him away because I didn't want him torturing the poor rabbit while we made a decision about it. And yeah, but Zen was like, his part was over, and that was it for him, which is just interesting because some dogs would have
selective
gone into
breeding, though. It's selective
guarding.
drive.
Yeah, he did. That's it. He was done.
Yeah.
All right, that was an hour. I tend to go on forever. I'm going to show some self-restraint and take you along with me.
I could chat with you all night. So
it's good to see you again. I missed you. I wish you could
great to see you as well.
But I know you.
I know, man. I wish I could come out for the seminar and such, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's going to be fun. I'm having a Mondio seminar.
7-hour drive one way though, man. That's just I can't. Thank goodness for Susan Cleveland. She was a champ.
A little brutal. Maybe she wants to come out. Then you'll be really jealous. All right.
Next summer.
I'm gonna set you free. Thank you so much. I will see you on Saturday at the conference.
Alrighty.
Online. Talk to you later. Bye, guys. Thanks for joining us.